Hello? Be right back. Hopefully that's not too loud in the background. Once we have a few people in, we're gonna start reading. Say hi if you're in. Okay, so it is. Well, I'm gonna get started now because I don't want to wait here forever. So, oh well. If there's anyone watching, um, we will be reading a few more chapters of Drumroll Please. We read the first two chapters, for a little recap. Um, Melly, our main character, um, has just gone to a summer camp for band. It's a band summer camp, with their best friend. Um, and right before going to summer camp, they were told by their parents that their parents are getting a divorce. Like the day before, and they haven't really had time to talk it with their best friend, um, because their parents have been around kind of all the time. But they just left. They're on their own now, away from their parents, and we are going to pick up on chapter 3. These chapters aren't titled in this, but let's start. Trebleclef lived up to its name. As we climbed the steps, pine uh, pine needled path, it I was huffing and puffing. Olivia's forehead shone. She shook out her hair and scooped it into a fresh ponytail. I wish I could do the same, but last week my stylist had cut mine exactly the wrong length. Long enough to make my neck hot, but too short to pull back. At least I didn't have to carry my base all the way up here. Olivia and her, uh, Olivia said after leaving our auditions, we'd followed the map to the lodge, where she'd pick out a locker. Cardio is good for you, I said, panting. Uh, Not dying of a heart attack is good for me, Olivia said, and stopped because waiting for us at the top of the hill was yet another counselor with yet another clipboard. Oh, I said at the same time as Olivia said. Nice. The counselor had spiky blue hair. Rings went up the sides of both of her ears, and she had more rings in her eyebrow and her nose. I wondered if she was hidden uh, way back in the woods so she didn't scare off the touchier parents. But her round face was friendly. Hey, she said. I'm Blair. Whom do I have the pleasure? Olivia and Melly, Olivia said. Let me guess. Blair chewed her pen. Drummer, obviously, she said, pointing at my stick bag. And I'm gonna say lead guitar? She jerked her chin at Olivia. Olivia beamed. Bass, actually. For camp purposes. But believe me, I'm all about leading from behind. I'll just bet, Blair said. Tents are starting to fill up, but should still have your pick. Any of the yellow ones. Blues for staffs. The ranger will be by the truck be by with his truck any minute. He'll drop off your stuff at the bottom of the hill. I couldn't help it, I groaned. Blair's lips twitched. It's the price we pay for this, primo real estate. Our primo real estate. Everyone knows this is the best site at Camp Rockaway. Take a sec and I'll look around. We did. We were surrounded by towering pines. The treetops framed a circle of brilliant turquoise sky. I got dizzy staring up. A good kind of dizzy. At night, Blair said, that break in the trees is a tunnel to the freaking stars. Let She let that sink in before adding with a wink. Plus, if it storms, all the water runs downhill to Caroline Kingdom. Go on now. Pick out your tent. When I first heard we were going to stay in tents, I imagined flimsy pup tents stacked, staked to the ground, roots and rocks poking up through our sleeping bags. Olivia had shown me photos on Camp Rockaway's website, uh, proving otherwise, but they hadn't prepared me for the real thing. They were big and made of bulky canvas, uh, rigged on to wooden frames off the ground. Though the open flap, Through the open flaps, I could see 4 cots set up in each tent's plank floor. There's people in that one, that one, that one. Olivia ticked them off her fingers. In other words, there's people in all of them, I said. How do we know which one to choose? What are you afraid of? I teased. That will end up with someone who snores. Olivia had a deviated septum. When she fell asleep, it sounded like someone was revving up a chainsaw. She threw me a dirty look, but when I crossed my eyes at her, she laughed. End of the line, Olivia said as we approached the final tent. Sitting on the floor, sitting on the front steps was a freckled girl with glasses and spirals of reddish-brown hair, playing a harmonica. Her song chugged along cheerfully as her lips skated along the silver surface. She lowered it when she saw us. Hey, sorry to interrupt. Do you have 2 empty beds? Olivia asked. I've got 3. The girl unfolded herself and stood up. I wasn't short, but I barely came up to her shoulder. I'm Shanuna, she said. You 2 are first-timers, right? Olivia said, pointing to herself and Melly. Is it that obvious we are new? There's something in your face, says. Your eyes are like extra big. Shuna grinned. You play harmonica? I asked, as if we'd seen and heard before was a hallucination. C- in conventional skills, Melly. Shana said, yep, and guitar. I'm a country girl. Or I should say country woman. Women in country music are infantilized enough without me doing it myself. Infantilized? Olivia asked. Oh, you know, men singing, I want to go down by the river with my sweet little girl and drink whiskey on the 4th of July. That kind of thing. If they're drinking whiskey with actual little girls, they're pedophiles. I had no idea what to make of Shuna, but I was pretty sure I liked her. What about you 2? She asked. Drums, of course. She nodded at my stick bag. There it was again. At Camp Rockaway, everyone knew just by looking at me how I spent my free time. Back home, most people thought my stick bag was an ugly purse. I play guitar and bass, Olivia told her, but I only brought my bass. Shuna nodded. Wise choice. There was always an army of guitar players. Luggage! Blair bellowed across the campsite. Get your luggage, bottom of the hill. Oh boy, Olivia sighed. Do we actually need any of that stuff? Maybe we can leave it there for the next 2 weeks and the ranger can pick it up again before we go home. Did you bring mosquito netting? Shuna asked. You'll want that for sure. My first time at camp, I made the mistake of going without. I had so many mosquito bites by the time I went home, my parents didn't recognize me. I had the feeling her mosquito bites would have blended right in with her freckles. But point taken. I had no interest in being a bunch of mosquitoes all night buffet. Come on, I told Olivia. Cardio, remember? When we're back at school, all will get A's in PE for sure. I'll go with you, Shina said. There's no use postponing the inevitable. On our way down, we passed the other girls coming up with their gear. The girl from the taxi was one of them. Hello again, she said as we brushed past each other on the path. I managed to startle Hi before she was gone up the hill. Who was that? Olivia asked. She acted like she knew you. I shook my head. How could she? We just got here. Maybe you've got friends here who you hadn't told me about, Olivia joked. Secret rock and roll friends in the middle of the woods, I said. No, only you. The ranger had left an enormous mound of luggage at the signpost for Treble Clef. The three of us grabbed our stuff. If climbing the hill had been hard the first time, dragging our luggage with us could have been an Olympic event. I was dying to rinse off and hike to the shower house, wherever it was. Would have been totally worth it. But by the time we got back to our tent, we had our last bunkmate. This girl was tiny. Her curly black haircut, super short. Super short, I mean. The only big things about her were her wide-set eyes and smile, which flashed dazzling white against her dark brown skin. She threw her arms around Shuna's waist, which was basically as high as she could reach, and Shuna returned the hug. Hi, the new girl said, turning to Olivia and me, sticking out her hand. Tony Davis, at your service. Her grip was knuckle crushing. Tony and I have been camp friends for years. Shuna said, her arm around Shuna's shoulders. Get this, she's a classically trained pianist and rapper. Classically trained pianist and rapper, Olivia echoed. Is that a thing? As sure as a Jewish country singer is, Tony said. She and Suna slapped hands. What about you two? Shuna asked. What's your jam? Oh, Melly and I are up for almost anything. Olivia said. We've been getting into the classics lately. You know, the Who, the Stones, that kind of thing. Anything as long as it's rock. As long as as it rocks. The way she said it made us sound cooler than we were. At least at our school, it wasn't enough to rock out in your basement until you'd played your first block party. You were just one more kind of a nerd. If obsessing over music gave us any more creed than playing video games or competing in spelling bees, I had yet to notice. But it was fun. I think Shuna was waiting for me to say something too. But since Olivia had already answered for both of us, I only shrugged in agreement. The four of us teamed up to hang our mosquito netting. Shuna and Tony were experts. When we were finished, it looked like we had a bunch of green gauze cage suspended over our beds. Hey, weird question, Olivia said as we rolled out our sleeping bags. Where are all the boys? Did they get abducted by aliens on their way from auditions? Tony and Suna burst out laughing. I wish, Tony said. Their units are on the other side of camp. Shuna explained, trust me, you'll see plenty of them at practice. Meals, activities. It's basic. It's actually really nice to get a break from them. I was just glad not that I had anything in particular against boys, but I'd seen too many movies where boys sneaked into the girls' slumber parties to steal their underwear. Plus, I didn't want to risk boys seeing me wearing my pajamas with no bra underneath. It was bad enough that our bathroom was so far away. Bathrooms were supposed to be down the hill, not down it. Uh, Bathrooms were supposed to be down the hall, not down a hill. Why? Tony asked. Are you looking for love? Of course not, Olivia said. I'm here to play music, like everybody else. We all turned at a knock at our tent pole. A head of blue haired popped inside. All set? Blair asked. We're meeting in the fire circle for in 2 minutes. We'll be right out, Shana said. Ready, sisters? She reached out and linked elbows with Tony, who linked elbows with Olivia, who linked elbows with me. And suddenly, I was being towed out of our tent into the pine-scented sunshine. I'd never had a sister before, never even had someone call me a sister, or call me sister. But even though I'd known Shuna and Tony for less than half an hour, it didn't feel weird as I expected. 4. The afternoon was total information overload. Poppy and Blair led us in a name game, which we had to make a jingle to help everyone remember our names. Let's just say when your name only rhymes with jiggly words like belly and jelly, it's bad news. The rules came next. About bedtime and wake up time. About keeping our tents clean, not feeding woodland creatures, not flushing non-flushable items down the toilets, not climbing trees, not setting things on fire, except in the fire circle under adult supervision. I started to wonder what catastrophes had prompted someone to write these things down. It seemed like all common sense, but maybe common sense isn't all that common. Finally, it was time to go to the lodge for dinner going straight. Instead of going straight there, though, we stopped in a clearing dominated by a woodland sculpture shaped like a giant electric guitar. The guitar white body was marked unit. The colorful neck was the frets and tuners of real guitars would be was labeled with different locations: lodge, library, lake, and so on. The entire thing was covered with little hooks. Olivia and I had passed it earlier on our way to Treble Clef, but I hadn't thought too hard about it. I figured it was somebody's bizarre choice of lawn or ornament, I think. Maybe the directors with the bad handwriting and the bad puns, Damien. Welcome to the fretboard, Poppy said. As you've probably gathered, Camp Rockaway divides up campers by age. Treble Clef is junior high girls unit, but we've also got units for high school and younger girls. Um, Same goes for the boys. Blair jumped in. The younger kids do most of their activities with their units, but you've got a lot more freedom. There are certain times you're expected to be certain places, like meals, lights out, or band practice. Beyond that, it's up to you. You want to shoot hoops? Knock yourself out. You want to get in some extra practice in the stalls? Go for it. But with great power comes great responsibility, am I right? We've got some Rockaway veterans here, Poppy said, who can explain to our newcomers how the fretboard works. I was sure Shuna would volunteer because she seemed to know something about everything, but instead, Taxi Girl stepped forward. I felt stupid for not remembering her real name from all the games. Allison, Annabelle. There were only 12 of us girls in Trouble Clef, plus Poppy and Blair. It should have been easy, but I was lost in the flurry of everything. I'd been trying to absorb. Uh, Thanks, Adeline, Poppy said. That's right. Don't call me Madeline. I'm way too Gladeline. Just call me Adeline. She, her smile twinkling with braces seemed to prove it. Okay, she said in a loud, clear voice. You're all going to get a guitar pick with your name on it. It got a hole drilled in it so you can hang it on the board. Poppy fished in her pocket and pulled out a handful of picks. Our picks are yellow, she said. The other units have other colors. Is my phone dying? Yes, it is. Um, is that good? Yeah, I think everything's good. Okay. Where was I? Our picks are yellow, she said. The other units have other colors to set them apart. She gave me one with my name written in extra fine point Sharpie. So I've got my pick, Blair said. How do I decide where to hang it? If you're with your unit, you can leave it on the body of the guitar where it says unit. That's home base, Adeline said. But if you're doing your own thing, you need to flip your pick to the right place along the neck. That way, if someone needs to track you down for any reason, they'll know where to look. And we call this monstrosity the fretboard. Why? Blair asked. Adeline grinned, uh, widened. So you don't fret about where we are. Olivia said, and because Camp Rockaway never walks away from a terrible joke. You're catching on already, Blair said proudly. Go hang your picks. Dinner was hot dogs on the lawn outside the lodge with all the usual things you'd eat with hot dogs. Potato chips, pasta salad, watermelon, chocolate chip cookies. Adeline was ahead of me in line. I noticed her taking her hot dog from a separate, smaller tray. When I got up there, I saw the tray was marked veggie. Apparently, vegetarianism went along with being into uh, went along with being into peace and love and killing fascists. I took regular I took a regular hot dog, feeding my little feeling a little guilty and feeling silly for feeling guilty. I'd never felt guilty about eating meat before. I was afraid of what Adeline thought. Why should I care anyway? I sat in a sunny spot with Olivia, Tony, and Shuna. It seemed like most people were sticking with their bunkmates. As we munched our hot dogs, Olivia asked, "So when do we get our band assignments?" Right after breakfast tomorrow, Tony said. Olivia groaned. I don't think I can wait that long, Shuna said. The teachers get together tonight and compare notes. How did they choose who goes with who? Olivia asked, shifting closer to me. Not that we had any reason to worry. We'd on our applications that we were coming to camp together. As long as we had each other, it didn't matter who else we were put with. Partly by instrument, of course, said Shuna. Like each band gets a drummer, except there's always uh, too many guitar players, Tony said. That's just the fact of life. Tell me about it, Shuna said. Oh, and there's always some random violinist or accordion players. They just get sprinkled in at the end. Accordion players, Olivia said? It happens. It's also by your type of music, Tony said. Like if, uh, like if I'm into Beyonce, they wouldn't stick me with a bunch of Beach Boy wannabes. Basically, band assignments determine your future at camp. Shuna said, whoever you end up with, you're going to spend a lot of time with them, which can totally rule or totally suck, depending. What what about how good you are? I asked, nibbling nervously on my watermelon rind. What if they put you in a band and you can't keep up? Shuna and Tony looked at each other, obviously thinking, "Uh-oh, don't put me in a band with Melly." But Tony said, "I won't worry about that. Damien tries really hard to keep Camp Rockaway uh, keep hard tries really hard to keep Camp Rockaway. What's the word he uses, Shanna? Cooperative, not competitive." Shuna said, "It's true. Millie, um, Millie, the prodigies are up the road at Inton Interlochen. There's a lot of talent there, here, but it's more about having a good time than anything else, you know?" Right, Tony said. The music stuff's great, but let's be real. I can form a band anywhere, but I can't see the stars at home Detroit, in the Detroit burbs. I can't canoe on a lake. I can't make s'mores over a campfire. Her eyes shone. Olivia and Tony, uh, Olivia told Tony, you ought to do ads for this place. She flashed her enormous grin. Why, thank you. I'd I've often thought if music doesn't work out, I'll go into marketing. Um, as dinner wound down, Damien stood up on a folding chair um, outside the door of the lodge. He looked like a little younger uh, than my parents, with thinning strawberry blonde hair and a big beard, tiny round glasses glinting over his pink cheeks. His Camp Rockaway t-shirt strained against his belly. He could have been Santa Claus in another 50 years. Good evening, Rockaway Stars, he bellowed. Did you enjoy your meal? On a ear-splitting rock concert quality cheer, uh, completed with hooting and whistling, rose from the lawn. If anyone hated hot dogs, they weren't going to spoil the mood by omitting it. Fantastic. We've got a real treat for your first night at camp. Your staff is going to be working you hard the next couple weeks, pushing you to your musical limits. But if you played in a band before, you know it's not just about playing your instrument well. It's about working together. It's about giving and take. It's about give and take. That stuff isn't easy, and we know it. Damien paused and pushed his glasses up his nose. That's why tonight we are giving you a demonstration of our skills. So you can see we're not talking out of our behinds. All of your staff are terrific musicians on their own, yet many of them met each other for the first time this summer. You'll get a sense of what can be accomplished in a short time if you go into this experience with decision and an open mind. And of course, we hope you'll have a blast. Thank you and welcome to Camp Rockaway. Damien stepped down from his chair. Counselors began weaving among the campers, telling us to finish up and herding us into the lodge. The four of us stood and threw away our trash. The lodge was a large building with stone walls and exposed wooden beams. Inside, all the dining tables and chairs had been folded and pushed aside to clear space in front of a stage, a real one, wired up with lights and mics, and amps and cables coiled neatly on the floor. I counted a drum set, a keyboard, and several guitars, electric, acoustic, bass, um, in stands, a saxophone and trumpet, a banjo, and a mandolin. I lost track. The musicians took to the stage. Damien sat behind the drummer. Uh, I didn't know why that surprised me, but it kind of did. And Poppy stepped behind the keyboard. My breath caught um, as the counselor uh, who had auditioned me, Donna, pulled the strap of an electric guitar over her head, and there were half a dozen more. By the time they'd all taken their places, the stage was packed, the house lights dimmed. Damien clicked his sticks together, and the bright, joyful intro to Walking on Sunshine blasted through the large speakers. They were good, like really good. Nobody needed an invitation to dance. Well, I sort of bounced nervously, but the crowd was so thick, boys and girls, little kids and teenagers, and counselors all mixed together. It didn't really matter. A dopey smile hung off my face. Here we were miles from the nearest gas station, the nearest grocery store, the nearest school or mall or anything at all. In the midst of a live rock show. You know why they do this, right? Shauna shouted as she whirled by. Donna said, "It's to prove the counselors practice what they preach," Olivia yelled back. That's the official line, but it's really to wear us out so we sleep tonight. It was working. Looking back at the day, it was hard to believe that it was this morning Mom had informed me Dad was staying in Kalamazoo to hunt for an apartment instead of driving me to camp. I was suddenly exhausted and a little bit queasy. It was weird. Part of me wanted to obsess over the trouble at home. Part of me wanted to be miserable, to pick at the wound so it wouldn't have a prayer of scabbing over. And the ten tireder I got, the bigger part of that me grew, and the harder I had to fight it. I was relieved when the music finally ended and the lights came back up. Olivia and I gathered around Poppy and Blair with the other girls from our unit and began the hike back to Trouble Clef. Darkness hadn't yet fallen, but everything had turned smudgy. Smudgy trees, smuggy sky. The color stuck out of the scenery until nothing was left but the shades of gray. Our group uh, bustled with leftover excitement from the far. But the further we walked into the woods, the quieter we got, as if the gentle blowing of the leaves were telling us to shh, shh, and we were listening. The buzz and hum of the afternoon had gone, but still my ears rang. I thought at first it was from the show, which uh, had been loud enough that Mom would have run for her ex Excedrin, but no, it was different. Chirping, thrilling. I fell behind the rest of the group as I peered into the trees, searching for the source. It's the frogs, someone said. I jumped. Speaking of frog, I jumped. Speaking of frogs, and felt ridiculous. It was the taxi girl, Adeline. Tree frogs and tree toads, she said, and peepers down by the lake. There's crickets in there too, probably, but mostly the frogs drown out everything else. I thought frogs that ribbit. I said, that's just the Hollywood frog. When I laughed, Adeline said, I'm serious. I mean, it's really the Pacific tree frog, but that's what you always hear in movies because it lives right in Hollywood. Uh, Now everyone thinks all frogs say ribbit in America, anyways. What do frogs say in other countries? I asked. I have no idea. I'm still trying to learn what all the American frogs say. She laughed. I love the tree toads, especially. Have you ever taken a stick and run along a picket fence? That's what their call reminds me of. I listen hard, trying to pick out the sounds of the tree toads from the rest. It's like when you listen to a song for the first time, and everything sounds like a jumble, Adeline said. But the more you listen to it, the more you can pick out the different instruments, the harmonies. It's different from what I'm used to, I said. Back home, you hear cicadas and traffic and kids playing in the street, sometimes a train. It's just a different song, Adeline said. Trust me, you'll fall in love with it. I was pretty sure it was already happening. Hey, Melly, Olivia had stopped on the path ahead. You're going to get lost if you don't stick with the group, and I heard a rumor there are bears in these woods. I called back. It's okay, I'm with, but Adeline was already jogging past Olivia to catch up with the others. Her white shirt faded in the deepening darkness. Everything okay? Olivia asked, her eyebrows drawn together. Of course, I said. Adeline and, Adeline and I were just talking about. I stopped. The next word should have been frogs, of course, but I didn't want to say it. Maybe because it sounded stupid. I didn't want to remember the conversation that way. It was just a couple of minutes long, but it felt like a big deal. Most people don't go out of their way to talk to shy people. Besides Olivia, I didn't have. Besides Olivia, I didn't have many other friends, and those I did have, I'd made slowly. Today revolution was a revolution. First Shauna, then Tony, and now Adeline, who was friendly and funny, and knew things about frogs I didn't want to risk spoiling that memory. So I said, the show. Oh, she said, said Olivia, in a voice I could hear the. In her voice, I could hear the words she didn't say. Is that really all? Come on. I said, taking her hand and pulling her along. We don't want to get left behind, do we? I hear there are bears in these woods. That is the next two chapters. I'm gonna end it here. See you guys next time. If there's anyone watching, which I don't think there is. Yeah, that was the that was chapters 3 and 4. See you next time.